friends, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is brought to you by my boyfriend who bought me all of this beautiful Taylor Swift merch that I'm wearing right now. He got me the locket and the scarf that I left at your sister's house. And also this video is brought to you by my boyfriend because he bought me like half of the books in this book haul. So thanks. This is just a video to let you all know that I'm spoiled. That's it. Bye. Alright, but seriously, book haul time. So like I said, some of these books were bought by my boyfriend, some were sent to me by publishers, and some were purchased by myself because I have zero control. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. So let's go. The first one was sent to me by JAN-uary Books, and that is One Italian Summer. I put this video in the books that I want to read in 2022. This is one of them. I really want to read this book, One Italian Summer. This book is basically about this girl who is going to Italy with her mother. This is this trip that they've been dreaming about for many years, and then right before their trip her mother passes away, and it's really like horrible because her mom is like her best friend, but she decides to go to Italy still because she knows is what her mom would have wanted for her. But then when she gets to Italy, she sees her mother. I do think that she sees like a younger version of her mother, but her mother doesn't know who she is. So she kind of befriends her and starts to talk to her and get to know her better, and just spending time with her. And I know that I'm going to cry like a baby with this book. So thank you so much to JAN-uary Books for sending this book to me. And this book comes out March 1st of this year. So get it later in the year. The next book that I got was actually sent to me by Nicole from Bonbon Reads. She got me the Gilded Wolves, and we're planning on buddy reading this at some point in time. So by reading the back of this...
My camera's dying. Just perfect. Just perfect. Let me tell you what this book's about and then we'll be back.
Basically this sounds kind of like Six of Crows, but I hope that it's better than it because it's kind of like a cast of very different people and there's like a heist. So on the back of this it says like an engineer with a debt to pay and a historian banished from his home, and a dancer and a brother and a whole bunch of people that are gonna get together. It's gonna be a found family story and there's a heist. I'm stoked.
My camera's gonna die, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna charge and I'll be right back. It'll be like seconds for you.
Okay, I am back and recharged. I hope the angle didn't change too much, but let's get back into it. So the next book that I have is Circus of Wonders. This is an arc that was sent to me by JAN-uary Books. This book comes out on February 1st of 2022, so in a couple of weeks from now. So this one is kind of what I wanted, Where Dreams Descend. I forget, Janella Angeles is the author name of Where Dreams Descend. This is what I wanted from that book. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but it's just giving me the vibes that I was hoping to get with that book. So basically this is set in the 1860s in England, and this is when like circuses are like all the rave, and basically this young girl that we follow is sold to the circus. So she becomes kind of like an attraction at the circus, and basically I think the owner of the circus kind of becomes jealous of this girl because she's more popular than he is. And then I'm assuming, like from the description, the circus's owner's brother falls in love with her, and there's just family drama, there's tension. It's just dramatic and like historical and a circus, and this is giving me like Water for Elephants vibes, and I'm excited to read this. So the next book that I have is another arc, and this one is Beneath the Stairs by Jennifer Fawcett. This one comes out in February 22nd of this year, obviously. And this one was also sent to me by JAN-uary Books. So this one's kind of a mystery thriller novel. So basically this is set in New York, and there's this house called the Agaton house, and something very terrible happened there. So basically one day this man killed his wife and his 2 young daughters, so everyone stays away from the house because it's haunted you don't get near it. But then one day, these two young, dumb 14-year-old girls decide as a dare that they're going to go to the house. So basically, I think their names are like Claire and Abby. So they both go in, Claire and Abby going in to have some fun. And then one of them, I don't know which one, I think it's Abby, she's never the same ever again. So then many years later, like 20 years later, when they're like 30, one of them gets a call that the other girl tried to commit suicide at the house that they visited when they were 14 years old, the haunted house. So basically, she goes back and tries to figure out what's going on. And I'm so here for it. It sounds so interesting. This was kind of pitched for fans of Jennifer McMahon, Simmons, and James. So I'm really excited. I love these type of books about like a woman that has to return to her hometown after something terrible happened. Like, I'm living, and I'm so excited to read this. The next book that I have is yet another ARC sent to me by Tor Nightfire, and this one's Sundial by Catriona Ward. I can't see. This one goes on sale on March of this year, so very soon. So basically, this novel follows this woman. She has a husband, 2 kids. She has it all, perfect life, and she kind of really wanted to get away from her hometown because creepy stuff happens down there that she doesn't want to think about. But then she realizes that everything that she's been running away from is kind of catching up to her, because one of her daughters is kind of showing like dark tendencies. So basically, her daughter collects like tiny bones and whispers to imaginary friends. So this lady is kind of seeing like that darkness that she's been like running away from, so she has to return to like her hometown. This one seems a little bit more paranormal than what I'm like and what I'm used to, but it does sound really interesting, and I'm excited to read it at some point. The next book I have is another ARC sent to me by JAN-uary Books. Thank you so much. This one's actually on sale already, so you can find this at a bookstore. And this one is All I Want by Darcy Bell, and Darcy Bell is the author of A Simple Favor. I never read A Simple Favor, but I did watch the movie and I thought it was amazing. So basically, this one is about this pregnant woman, and her husband find this beautiful house, but it kind of has a history, so she's kind of hesitant into putting in an offer. But she, at the end of the day, she agrees with her husband, and they put in an offer and they move into this house, and it's a creepy house and weird things start happening, and her husband's kind of distant, and I'm sure there's a lot more to this book, but that's kind of the description on the back of this book. But already from the description, I already know it's going to be like a funny, dark humor type of book, so I'm super excited to read this. I should have kind of like broken this up, but I have yet another ARC sent to me by JAN-uary Books. I kind of put them all together and didn't realize. But anyway, this one is A Ballad of Love and Glory by Reina Grande, and this one is a historical fiction novel that follows this woman. Her name's Jimena, and she is a Mexican healer. So this is set during a time of war in the 1840s. So this is the war. I don't know exactly what war, I'm sorry, but basically it's a time during the war. She's a Mexican healer, so she decides to become an army nurse. So that's one point of view, but then we're also following the point of view of John Riley, and he is an Irish immigrant, but he's kind of like fed up about like the way that things are happening like in the US Army. So basically he deserts the US Army and he joins the Mexican army, which is something that could get him executed. And basically somehow, some way, he meets Jimena and they're gonna fall in love. I already know. So this sounds really exciting. I'm super excited to read this. Alright, let's get into some books that my boyfriend got me now. Alright, so recently my wonderful boyfriend has bought me 4 books. I love you. I know you're watching. Thank you. I appreciate them. They make me so happy. So the first one that I have here is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is another book that was in my list of the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. Super excited to read this. This is a sci-fi novel. I don't know much about like the actual plot or anything, but I have watched The Martian by Andy Weir, so I know he writes a lot of sci-fi, and he's also very funny. He has a good like comedy style in his writing. And I've heard that a lot of people loved this book last year, and people that don't even really read a lot of sci-fi, this was one of their favorites of the year. So I'm super stoked to read this book and see what all the hype is about. The next book that I have, it's... Whoa, I forgot that I was watching someone's reading sprints. Okay, so the next book that I have is Waking Gods by Sylvain Neuvel. I never know how to say their name. So this is a sequel to the Sleeping Giants series. If you don't know Sleeping Giants, it's a sci-fi series, and it's basically set in the US. It's all told in interview format. I don't really know if this one is interview format. It looks like it, so I'm excited about that. But this is a sequel, and basically in the first one it just follows kind of like the US Army and like NASA and stuff like that, because out of nowhere around the world all of these like hands and parts of a body came up. It's hard to explain, but it's a really good series, so read it. And yeah. The next book that my boyfriend got me was A History of Odd Places by Shay Earnshaw. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, so I'm super stoked to read this. So basically this book follows this man who is very, very talented at finding missing people. He only needs like one item and he'll be able to find them like super quickly. So basically this author contacts him to find her daughter, I believe it's who's missing. So he's like on his way to find this little girl, and the search kind of leads him to this place called the Pastoral, right? Is it the Pastoral? Yes, the Pastoral. And basically the Pastoral, it's like this community for people that are looking for like a simpler way of life. But usually people that go there, you just never hear from them ever again. And basically this is what happens to the investigator. He goes over there and no one ever hears from him ever again. So basically I think someone else is going to come in the story and kind of figure out what happened to them. But this sounds amazing. Like this is giving me like Midsummer. I say Midsummer, but people say Midsummer, that movie. It's giving me those vibes, and I'm here for History of Wild Places. I can't wait to read this, y'all. I'm so excited. The next book my boyfriend got me was The Grimrose Girls by Laura Pohl. So this one is kind of like a dark academia. It's set in a school called Grimrose Academy, and this one follows a set of like 4 best friends, and one of them dies, and then the other 3 best friends set out to figure out what happened to her. They retrace her steps and all of this, and then they realize that she's not the first dead girl at Grimrose Academy, and then they get into like the history of everything has happened at the academy thus far, and they learn that all of the murders are connected to ancient fairy tale curses. I have to read it because I was not gonna remember all that. This sounds so good. It sounds like super dark, and I'm excited to read this. Okay, the next couple of books are Book of the Month picks. The first one I have is The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. This was kind of like the historical fiction pick for Book of the Month, and I believe this one's just going to follow like this palace, like hotel place, and just a whole bunch of different characters, kind of like the poor and the rich, and I'm sure there's a story, there's a plot there. I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you, but I'm really excited to read this. The next one I have is Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I'm excited to read this one. This is a thriller, and it's basically all set in a boat in Hawaii, and someone dies, and obviously someone in this boat did it, so it's kind of like a whodunit type of novel. This was compared to The Guest List and also another book by Ruth Ware. I can't remember which one right now, but I was sold because like those are 2 of my favorite thriller authors, so yes. The next book that I have is Olga Dies Dreaming. I cannot pronounce her name, so I don't want to do it incorrectly, but by Miss Gonzalez, or Mr. Gonzalez, Miss Gonzalez. This one follows a Puerto Rican brother and sister, and they live in New York, and basically the brother, he's kind of like a congressman in New York, and he represents like the Latinx community and everything, and the girl Olga, she is a wedding planner, and she kind of like does like extravagant wedding planning, like for very rich people in New York. And these two siblings, they were kind of left to be raised by their grandmother because their mom kind of like left them, and she went back to Puerto Rico or something like that. But once it's like hurricane season, their mother comes back to New York, and that's going to resurface a lot of deep feelings of abandonment. And I'm really excited to read this book. I feel like I hadn't seen a lot of Latinx or Puerto Rican books, for that matter, on Book of the Month, so this one I'm super excited. The next couple of books I bought for myself because I have no self-control. The first book that I bought for myself, it's In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley. This one, I don't know much about it, but from what I've heard, it's about this woman that is very organized and planned, and she knows every single detail about how everything in her life is going to go. She has like the perfect job. She just accepted her boyfriend's marriage proposal, and she's just happy. Like,
she's living her best life.
Then one night, like at midnight, she goes to sleep, and when she wakes up, she is in a whole different life, and basically she is living 1 hour of her life 5 years into the future. I don't know how many times she like visits the future, or if it's just this one occasion that kind of shapes like how she thinks about her future forever, but I don't really know about that part. But basically she just goes into the future and she sees her future, and it's nothing like what it is now, and she's shook, like she doesn't know what to do. So I'm super excited. I feel like this is gonna be like a very slice of life type of book, so I tend to like those, so I'm excited to read this. The next book that I bought is actually for Secret TBR, a very, very exciting video that I'm planning for March. It's later on, but it is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is a fantasy book, and all that I know about this book really is that it is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. And let me tell you, I used to be a huge fan of Once Upon a Time, and my favorite character was Rumpelstiltskin, so I'm stoked to read this book. I know that it's a fantasy, but besides that, I don't want to know anything else, to be honest. Okay, so the next book that I have is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I don't know if I'm saying that incorrectly, I'm sorry. I saw that this book was like a lot of people's favorite book of the year. I'm stoked to read this book. It sounds like super dark and funny, but basically this book is about this woman, Finlay Donovan, and she is an author, and she meets with her like agent, publisher person at like a coffee shop, and she is telling her idea for a book about like a hitman type of book, and someone overhears their conversation and they think that Finlay Donovan is like a hit woman, and I'm assuming that they'll like contact them. I don't know if she like really needs the money or something, but I'm assuming she's gonna take up the offer, or like I don't know what's gonna happen. But it sounds really funny and like dark humor, and I'm here for it. The next book that I have is also for that Secret TBR that I mentioned, and this one is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. This book's by Jessica Townsend. This book has been compared to like Harry Potter, so like middle grade fantasy type of book. So this one is basically about this girl. Her name's Morgan Crow, and she is born on a very unlucky day, and she's basically blamed for all the local misfortunes. And basically she is told that when she turns, what is it, 11? Yeah, when she turns 11 that she's going to die. But basically one day this man comes in and just sweeps her off her feet and takes her away to this land called Nevermore, which is like just like a wondrous magical society, and she needs to become part of like the wondrous society, but in order to do that she has to go through all of these like dangerous trials against like many other children. And this just sounds like Goblet of Fire in a book, and I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited. I've been really into middle grade recently, so I'm excited. I'm stoked. I can't wait. And the last book on this book haul is The School for Good and Evil by Saman Chainani. I hadn't ever read the author's name. Basically, I bought this book because I know it's going to be turned into a TV show or movie or something, so I really want to read it before that comes out. But basically, this school for good and evil kind of teaches these kids to become like fairy tale princesses or the villains. There's these two girls who like have their dream of being like the princess or the villain, and then they're taken to the school and they're basically told that they're going to be the opposite from what they've always imagined. So I'm super excited to read this. Like I said earlier, I've been really into middle grade recently, so I feel like I'm really going to love this. Alright, that's it. That's the book haul. Please, I don't want to do another book haul for another few months. Like, I can't be buying more books. I have zero space, as you can see on my shelves. There's just stacks everywhere in my room, so I can't buy any more books. So I'll see you with another book haul in a few months. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!